This is Michael Drive of Gale Force, and you're listening to Wildman and Steve.
You are about to listen to the intersection of faith, talk, and music. The Wildman and Steve show starts right now.
All right, Steve, I've been experimenting. Every show is an experiment.
You know, you remind me of Dr. Frankenstein.
I was thinking more like the doctor with Beaker. Yeah, there you go. Now, wait, are we saying you're Beaker and I'm the doctor? Is that what we're going for here? But anyway, every show we're experimenting about how we open a show. What's the best way to open a show, right? The best way. And each time is something different. Each time, you never know how we're going to do it. And the fans are just clamoring about this. How are they going to open up the show? I mean, I've heard from people. They're like, I listen to the rest of the show, but what I really listen for is that opening, that experimental opening of how you're going to open a show. So today we're going to do something very interesting. Very interesting. Are you ready for this one?
Of course not. Of course I'm not ready.
Okay. As well as I do as a teacher, I'm a preacher, you're a teacher. We understand how people are. And it's interesting, isn't it? How much our culture just hates silence, right? I've never met anybody who loves silence. Have you? And that's how we just opened the show, ladies and gentlemen. You just heard for what? What did we get there? 4 seconds of silence. 4 seconds. Next time we'll try to go for 7, right? Maybe 6 seconds.
Our Jay, our editor, may think that he's supposed to edit that out.
Yeah, Jay, don't edit that out. And don't edit this out either, because that will take away. That'll be very anticlimactic if you edit this out or edit that out. So don't edit any of this out, Jay, if you're listening. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, our podcast editor, as many of you know, but not everybody does. But Old Smith Music is where you'll find him, oldsmithmusic.com, and his Twitter account. We had him on the show recently. Great guy, does our podcast editing for us. He makes us sound very good. You see, ladies and gentlemen, what you're listening to right now, by the way, this is the Wildman and Steve show, but what you're listening to right now is not Wildman and Steve. This is Wildman and Steve after Old Smith Music, Jay Allen Smith, took care of us and made us sound good. Because if we did this show without Jay, what would it sound like, Steve?
It'd probably sound like a Justin Bieber album.
You always have to go there, don't you? You always.
I do.
That's just where you have to go. Now Jay's going to be saying, maybe I should edit that one out. Maybe I don't know what to edit out here. We're going to make it very difficult for him to listen to this to see what he should edit out and what he should.
Maybe we should have the Beeb on our show sometime.
We know he's listening, right?
Yes, absolutely.
No, I mean, we have what I like to call Wildman and Steve closet listeners, The ones who love our show. They love our show, but they would never tell their friends that they listen.
Yep.
Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, Steve is going to start a therapy program for you, closet listeners. It's okay to tell everybody that you listen to our show.
The first step to really enjoying Wildman and Steve is admitting that you enjoy Wildman and Steve.
And that's that. And Steve and I still haven't taken that first step yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you to our show. We're so happy to be here. We have fun. As you can tell, we love what we do. This is a great time. And this is our Metal Talk episode. So once a month, we do a Metal Talk episode where we have a featured up-and-coming artist that you may know, you may not know, but they're not a household name just yet. And so we're going to be playing some great music. And today, our feature artist is John McKivergan. And right now, we are going to kick things off with his song called Why.
Metal Talk with Wildman and Steve.
Like giving a 10 to a person holding a sign. Hearing love you, man, tears well up in his eyes. Trying to assist those who struggle to make ends meet. Smiles mean they're good for a couple of weeks. Oh Lord, though I fall short so many times, you still show me what gives meaning to my life. When you lead and I try to make sure my neighbor has enough to eat, serve the ones that I lead, teach our youth that they belong, strive to make my marriage grow strong, using your gifts to help others thrive is no doubt why I am alive. Seeing joyful young faces when they learn a new skill, feeling a high watching their confidence build, following your wisdom from idea to song, being touched, hearing it helped someone along. Oh Lord, though I fall short so many times, you still show me what gives meaning to my life. When you lead and I try to make sure my neighbor has enough to eat, serve the ones that I lead, teach our youth that they belong, strive to make my marriage grow strong, using your gifts to help others thrive is no doubt why I am alive. Utilizing the talents that you have given to bring your plan to fruition invokes a sense of awe deep inside, a treasure only you can provide. Oh Lord, though I fall short
John McKivergan, great song.
You know, what I like about that song and a reason it fits us and for our show, I think, so well, while it may not be on the hard rock and metal side of things, but it had that real classic, again, CCM, contemporary Christian music feel. To me, it kind of harkened back to the 80s. It felt good. It had a good message, but it was also just a good song. It was good music as well. And again, I feel sometimes that, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we need to do an episode on this. We've talked about it enough. And I really don't mean to bash on worship music, especially contemporary worship music. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. In fact, I was listening to something today. Mutual friend of ours, Mark Middleberg, had texted something from Leland. And it was just a beautiful piece. It was really, really good. Mm-hmm. But some of the worship music can get a little repetitious to me in terms of both lyrical content and the music. And I think back to that really kind of heyday, the 70s and 80s in the CCM world, where there really was interesting music and really interesting lyrics. And that's what I heard in this song, Why.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that the style does take you back to that. And it's reminiscent for me because it's nostalgic about, you mentioned CCM, Christian contemporary music, or Christian rock, whatever term you want to use, was really back then, it was all controversial. It was all, the church didn't know what to do with it. There was some churches endorsing it, but man, the majority of churches were against it. The guys out there preaching against secular rock were preaching against secular and Christian rock. I mean, it was all just a huge controversy back then. So to me, when I hear artists, even today, play a style that's reminiscent of that, it kind of helps me, it kind of takes me back to the time where the reason that artists were doing that was because they were making a statement through their music. And I believe that John is doing the same thing here. I believe he's making a statement through his music by putting together the Christian message with an edgy sound. And that's what I appreciate about the tracks, especially the songs that we're going to be playing tonight.
Well, and as we're going to hear across the course of the show, the songs that we've chosen for this episode are really all different musically. And that's the other thing I like about an artist like John is someone who likes to create, someone who likes to experiment. We talked about this, I think, in our last Metal Talk episode. We are created in the image of a creator God. So to see his children, really having fun and playing with the various methods of creation, be it musical or graphic art or whatever. It's just neat to see, and that's certainly what I hear him doing. He'd be another one of these people I would imagine he would be doing it whether or not he got any kind of airplay, because he has to do it. Yeah.
So the passion for it just gets it out there. And ladies and gentlemen, this is John. Just so you know, it's McKivergan. And you can find him on Reverb Nation. And he does also have his own YouTube channel as well that you can search for him there as well. But without further ado, I'm going to have to ask you one day what that means, Steve. You're the Latin expert. What is it? Where does that come from? Without further ado, what does that actually mean? But we'll have that. I'm not going to put you on the spot anymore tonight for that. So it is time now for the tweet of the week.
And the tweet of the week comes to us from none other than guitar maestro Joe Bonamassa. And if you don't already follow Joe on Twitter, he is at J Bonamassa. And this was a tweet of his, and he says, Lazarus is back and ready for a cameo tonight in Austin, Texas. And he has got a picture of this beautiful gold Les Paul.
Yeah.
So I picked this both because of the Les Paul and you, Wild Man, being such a Les Paul aficionado. But also, Joe, he's named his guitar Lazarus, and he says Lazarus is back and ready for a cameo.
Mhm.
And of course, that calls to mind Lazarus from the New Testament. And we think about Lazarus being somebody who came back from the dead, and I got thinking about that, and I thought, no, he didn't.
Hmm.
Lazarus did not come back from the dead. Jesus raised him from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
But Lazarus didn't come back from the dead. In fact, nobody comes back from the dead except through Jesus. Jesus is the only one who was able to die and bring about his own resurrection, because he and the Father and the Holy Spirit are one God, and in a way that transcends what our limited human brains can fully understand. But for all the rest of us, I'm not going to resurrect myself. You're not going to resurrect yourself. Resurrection happens exclusively through Jesus Christ. And of course, what a wonderful, wonderful event that was. What a wonderful story that was. And we still obviously use the image of Lazarus today of people coming back from the dead.
Yeah, I think that's clear, because in that passage, when Jesus showed up, the whole issue was that he's the resurrection and the life, and he said that I am the resurrection and the life. That is it. I'm the only way for the resurrection. That's me. And it's an interesting story. I think it is kind of interesting with what Joe is saying there, because I'm guessing, without seeing much of the background on this tweet, I'm guessing that Lazarus, his guitar, his Les Paul, hasn't been played for a while. And so maybe his fans are wondering, where has this thing been? And who knows? I mean, maybe it needed some repair work. Maybe it needed to be set up better. Maybe it needed the tech guy to look at it, something. All of us have had things like that we have discovered in our life, where things that have been put away, put aside, and we thought they were basically useless unless we did something with them. Hey, you know what? I bet I can fix this car up. I bet I can fix this house up. Whatever it might be, something that we think is useless, but it's going to take some work to put it back into playing condition like it originally was. And so the same illustration, that's the idea. That's what Christ does. That's just the way Christ is. It's like when you read through the New Testament, Jesus, that's just who he is. That isn't what he does. It's his identity. He can't keep from doing that. That's everywhere you look. That's what he's doing. Somebody's dying, somebody's an outcast, whatever. He's just bringing life wherever he goes, and just resurrecting what everybody thought was useless. And I think that's a great message, great tweet, great observation. And I think it's important for all of us to realize that that's what Christ does.
Yeah. No, he's in the resurrection business, and not just his own, but anybody who would choose to put their faith in him. And I get a lot of people may just go through life and just not even thinking about their life and not even thinking about life at all. But if you think about it,
mm-hmm.
why would you want to stay dead? Why would you want to stay dead? Wouldn't if it's at all possible, and if there is some sort of restored life, renewed life,
right?
Wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
Well, friends, you can have it. You can have it through Jesus.
Yeah. I think it's interesting just to think about that, because it's almost like, I've heard this illustration before. That preacher said it years ago, and not every illustration stands on all fours. We understand that, but a common illustration I used to hear a lot was people don't usually realize they're asleep until they wake up. And so thinking about that with what you just said, it's possible we could be dead in the sense that we're talking here, not necessarily physically dead, but spiritually dead, but not realize it until we get a glimpse of life.
Wow.
And it's the same as like somebody who's blind for life and they've never seen anything.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're able to have the surgery, and all of a sudden they see, and they had no idea what the world entailed until that moment
Right.
took place. So it's like, it's one of those things of experiencing Christ is going to improve your life, but I'm cautious in even saying that, but improve your life even though you don't think it needs to be improved.
Right. Or you may have this misconception about what following Jesus means. And you've got this conception that, well, I'm going to have to, wear a hair shirt and eat honey and locusts. And, it's going to be this, ascetic sort of life. And you look again at what Jesus says. He says, I've come that you may have life and have it to the full. John 10:10. He says, the other guy, right? The thief, Satan, right? He's here to kill, steal, and destroy. He says, I'm about life. I want you to have life. And of course, he knows what that is because he's the one who created life, all life, your life.
Yeah.
So the offer is life. And so I think that's a great point. Once you may not realize it, but then once you come to see just a taste of what life is like in Jesus, then it opens everything up and you say, oh, wow. Yeah, I do want this.
Yeah. Kind of like Noble Romans, right? Noble Romans.
The fact that you mentioned Roman anything as a Latin teacher, that's going to get me excited. The fact that you mentioned Noble Romans, one of my all-time favorite pizza chains. Please make the connection for me.
Well, recently I was with you. Actually, it wasn't recently. It was almost a year ago. We were at the festival, and we got Noble Romans. We got Noble Romans pizza, and you asked me, do you have Noble Romans where you live? I said no. However, I grew up in the Midwest, so I remembered it. But I didn't remember it as well as the moment that I put that first bite into my mouth.
That's it. Yeah.
I didn't want to say this in front of you and your family and friends or even do this, but I wanted to eat every piece there after I just took that one bite. Right?
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
It's good stuff.
It is. Who can blame you, right? But, I was the guest, so I think I only ate about half of it instead of eating all of it. I'm not going to be rude and eat all of it,
Hey, but you know what? Fans, people who are listening, give us a shout out on Twitter or however you choose to do it. Where do you enjoy going for pizza? You've heard Noble Romans proclaimed on this show. Where is your favorite? If it's something local, if it's something national, give us a shout out at Wildman and Steve, maybe on Twitter or on Facebook. Let us know where you like to go for pizza.
Yeah, and you know what, folks? I'll tell you this right now. Wildman's opinion, I don't think that a bad pizza place exists. That's just my opinion. There's some that are better than others, but hey, you put any of that stuff in front of me, I get it.
I have to actually agree with you on this one. There have definitely been some stuff that was not as good as others, but at the end of the day, I love pizza.
Yes. Well, I'm glad we were able to confess our sins to our followers.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
But
I was going to say, matter of fact, I love pizza. I don't hate pizza at all.
Really? That's interesting. You love pizza, but you don't hate it. Sometimes you hear somebody say something and it reminds you of a song. Has that ever happened to you?
No.
No? Well, would you believe that the next song we're going to play is called Love versus Hate by John McKivergan?
Metal Talk with Wildman and Steve.
Fly, and so many people die. Children starve while their mothers can only cry. Terror finds its way into everyday life. Its message of destruction and death cuts like a knife. But we don't have to accept our world's hate, 'cause God's love led David to conquer Goliath. parties, trust can't be found. Judgment based on color won't go away. The resulting dissension can't be held at bay. But we don't have to accept our world's hate, 'cause God's love led David to conquer Goliath, Moses to part the sea, led Jesus to rise above dying, saving you and me. So understand, when they come face to face, God's love obliterates hate. God's love obliterates hate. We can stamp out all the wickedness. We just need to have the willingness to raise one hand to the Almighty above and reach out the other to one needing His love. We don't have to accept our world's hate, 'cause God's love led David to conquer Goliath, Moses to part the sea, led Jesus to rise above dying, saving you and me. So understand, when they come face to face, God's love obliterates hate. God's love led David to conquer Goliath, Moses to part the sea, led Jesus to rise above dying, saving you and me. So understand, when they come face to face, God's love obliterates hate. God's love obliterates hate.
Love versus hate. Straight up. I mean, first of all, this is one of his, what I would say is his rockers, right? This is an in-your-face rocker. This
I
is
love
not
the opening.
Yeah, exactly. This is not a mild, just telling you, and it's just straightforward. And then he just simply with the lyrics, he just goes through and just points out all of the issues in our world today where hate is causing issues, hate causing problems. It just lays it flat out and just says, hey, the love of God is different than this.
Yep.
The message the world needs to hear.
Yeah, no, it's a solid message. It's a solid tune. Like I say, the opening in particular really jumps out and grabs me. I think folks are going to like this one. Hopefully, you enjoy this one and go check John out. I think that his music is I don't know. It's probably just creating some buzz in the music world, which actually kind of makes me have a question. As I think about buzz in the music world, sometimes, Wildman, I just have to wonder, what's all the fuzz about?
Hey, what's the fuzz all about?
What's all the fuzz about? The segment of the show where we talk about the history of the guitar for all of us who love it and the impact it has made on music and our lives. I'm going to have to turn around once again, Steve, to my Wildman shelf. Okay. Now, I want to let everybody know, first of all, if you are watching by video, and if you're not watching by video, I'll explain it as well. that the items behind me are all that I can fit on there so far. My collection is much bigger than this. So I kind of interchange different things, but I am trying to rebuild this amazing collection of cassettes that I had in the 80s using CDs that I no longer have the cassettes. And one of them just came in today. I was able to get this through a swap program. There's a swap CD thing on, you can get online and everything. You post a CD you don't want, somebody else has it. And so somebody had this. This is Petra Beat the System 1985.
Nice.
Now, this was my first introduction to Christian rock music.
Oh, special album.
Yes. And I remember the youth group at my church was talking about it, because this turned out, and folks, if you look up the history on this Beat the System tour. This was a monumental tour, not just for Petra, but for the Christian music industry alone. This was when they kind of crossed a barrier, okay? And one of those barriers was you were able to go into any record store back then. Of course, we don't have those as much anymore today, but all the ones you go to the mall and you be able to see, and you see whoever's there, and Petra would be right there alongside the other big names. So they made a big splash with this album and with this tour, and people started to recognize them for their talent. But something that was interesting that I thought about this tour, because I took music when I was in high school, and I took a music appreciation class. I took a music theory class, and I only took those classes because I was a guitarist and I wanted to get into more of it. And plus I needed to fill up some credits because I just wanted to graduate and hit the road. I didn't care, right? I'm being very honest right now. That's what I was back then. But our music teacher, he let us all do a report at the end of the semester on our favorite band. And of course, I did Petra, and I did the whole thing. I did not have to do any research. It was all in my head.
Of course.
Everything down. But he started at the very end. He kind of brought everybody together with what everybody chose, and he was talking about it. And he said, I want everybody to think about something here. And this was in the 80s. He said, every decade has its main instrument. And he said, what's the main instrument of the 80s? And the first thing I thought of course, being biased, I thought, well, the guitar. I mean, look around, it's the guitar. And he was like, no. What's your guess, Steve?
Synthesizer.
Absolutely. Now, the reason I bring that up is because when you listen to Petra Beat the System, you catch a lot of synth vibes. John Lowry was great with playing for them on this tour. But not just that. But what's all the fuzz about is that Bob Hartman, the lead guitarist for Petra, founding member, main songwriter, this was the tour that he played his Roland G707, which was his synthesizer guitar.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you look up the history of the synthesizer guitar and the impact that it made, you will be surprised at how much of a difference that made in the music world. Because what took place was, we all knew what the synthesizers were, right?
Sure.
And, anybody could get those things at Kmart or Walmart where you could record your voice and play the keys, right? John Lowry perfected that on this tour. He had that famous Jesus Love You solo that he continued to do all the way through the end. And even in their reunion, he came out and did it again, where him and his wife and his son, he recorded them, and he plays this incredible solo with their voices through his keyboard. And he does it extremely fast, slow, and brings up different things. Jesus Loves You is an incredible solo that he does. But at the same time, Hartman was doing the synth. And so you kind of get to this place where it's like, especially when you're listening to the album. I mean, when they're on tour, it's one thing and you're watching them live. But when you get to the album, you're like, okay, I hear this sound. And usually we can tell, right? You can tell if somebody's playing the drums or someone's playing a guitar, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you've never confused that, Steve? You never said,
I've been pretty clear on that. Yeah.
Okay, you're pretty clear. Okay, or bass guitar and guitar, or if the guy's singing. But now it's like, okay, that was a synthesizer. I could tell. This is the 80s when the synthesizer really broke out, right? But with this, you're listening to it like, wait a minute. that could be the keyboard synthesizer, or it could be the guitar synthesizer, because what happened in a 6-string instrument, you were able to make the same sounds that a synthesizer would make. You had the same abilities. The reason I bring that up today on this segment is because I think it is so interesting how much technology has shaped how we do music since the 80s.
I'm sorry. Do we want to do a double episode right now? Do we just want to go off and say, listen, folks, this is part one of a 2-part or a 10-part to talk about the technology and the development of instruments? And forgive me, I mean, as an ancient, not just an ancient guy, of course, my students think I am ancient, but as an ancient history guy, you think about just across the history of the human race, how we have obviously the first and fundamental instrument is a human voice, right? So we can intone things through our voice. And then when was the first time a human being said, hey, when I hit this piece of metal, or I hit this piece of rock, or I hit this hollow object, that it produces a tone?
Yeah,
that it's somehow similar to the human voice. And then I take a string, I stretch it, I pluck it. Wow, that makes a tone. But if I cut that or hold that string at a halfway point, it makes a different tone. And then all of a sudden you're off to the races. And then, of course, once you get things being electrified, how that opened up, we talk about that with the guitar. And then when you hit the 80s, really, so 70s, we should include 70s.
Yeah,
70s.
you should. It was definitely starting in the 70s, but
right.
I don't think it was climactic until the 80s. Yeah.
No, and I think your music teacher was exactly right. I mean, when I think of the 80s, and certainly I'm a big fan of the guitar and the sound as you are, but when I think of 80s, I do think of the synthesizer, and especially in pop music. It's just all over the place. But then you also get it in the hard rock and so on. But then again, you're right. All the things that you can do through that. And then, to where we are today, things being done with the computer. You think about, suddenly I'm thinking about, Michael Sweet's pedal that he designed, where you've got all these presets and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing. And to me, it just ever widens the toolbox for the musician. Yeah. Just to play around and have fun and wow, what sound can I make and how can I make maybe that same note but in a different way, so there's a different quality to it. It's just, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Now, if you were to ask me my opinion, okay, guitar synth of the 80s versus the 60s, 70s raw rock sound of a guitar, I'm going to take the raw sound. That's just what I personally appreciate. Yeah. But I think that I don't know if you want to say message or the truth of this is that God gives us many avenues to get the message out. Our job is to use those avenues, whatever he does. The synthesizer, I think, was just part of it, because I think that this is just me guessing, but I would guess that the synthesizer also pre-ordered, so to speak, how we get our music today. Because now, as you know, I'm working on a project, and I don't want to use the show to plug the project every time, but ladies and gentlemen, it is at SOT Will Rock, but I'm not going to plug it. SOT Will Rock on Twitter. Sons of Thunder is coming out with a new album here in the summertime, but I'm not going to do that.
Yes. Insert shameless self-promotion here.
Yeah, exactly. Jay, please edit that out. I mean, don't really, but please edit that out. But how are we doing this? We live in different states. We're sending files back and forth.
Oh, right.
Now, I'm sure that the technology to make a sound with a synthesizer that they started to perfect in the 80s is connected to how we send music files back and forth. And you think about how the technology has opened up the door. Now, this is where I'm going to just make a little statement that I struggle with. because we're all about supporting the artists, and we're all about supporting buying the physical CD, because right now the streaming, they don't pay them anything, right? But at the same time, if you search for, and I've connected with a lot of indie artists, that has, on the flip side of that, that has given people that normally wouldn't have had the opportunity to share their music. You know,
Absolutely.
Where it used to be, unless you had the money, you couldn't do it, right? Where now anybody can just sit down and post it, and there it is.
And, you know, and again, we could talk so long about this. We've talked with other artists, and, you know, there's feelings on both sides of that. And certainly the whole, everybody can do it, and therefore kind of waters down the product as a whole. There's a lot more junk out there. But at the same time, there is that opportunity for people who really may have that talent, that gift, and just would not have had the opportunity or the financial means to get into a studio, or the physical means. It might not have had that close by, or wouldn't have been able to travel to a place to do that. And so suddenly you can do so much just out of your own home. You're exactly right. I've got to throw this in there, though, only because this came up the other day on some 80s Christian music thing. I don't know, some group I'm on Facebook. But you talk about synthesizer. And I hadn't heard this song since, golly, it was in the 90s, actually, I think. But I'd forgotten about it, and it came up, and I thought, oh my gosh, I remember this song. I remember it being the strangest piece of music I'd ever heard. And just an incredibly odd video. And I went and looked it up again, and it was just as strange as I remembered it. It's called Monosynth. One word, Monosynth, by a group called Joy Electric. And all I'm going to say is I triple dog dare you to look this up on YouTube. Okay. Monosynth by Joy Electric. Has to do with synthesizer, and that's all I'm going to tell you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard that, Monosynth. Yes. Now, you probably saw it posted, Steve. Somebody posted a picture, and it was it was an image of a concert, and they had this huge crowd, and they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, introducing my laptop." And on the stage was their laptop. That was the concert, So we can take everything we're talking about to the extreme. There's no question where you can just program a laptop and it can do the whole concert for you, and the people don't even need to show up.
May I ask that you never use the expression "to the extreme" around me again, please? As a friend, as your co-host,
I apologize.
May I ask that you never use that phrase around me again?
You can ask it, sure.
Well, because here's the thing. When you said "to the extreme," my mind immediately went to, I rock the mic like a vandal. Vanilla Ice, Ice, Ice Baby. To the extreme, I rock the mic like a vandal. So I'm sorry. And I wish that did not come to my mind. But it did.
I'd like to, walk on eggs because of your inadequacies, but I don't know if I can do that all the time, Steve. I mean, it's just, there's another egg, and then there's another egg. You don't say this, don't say that. Yeah. So yeah, I understand. I get it. And so, Steve, sometimes, just sometimes, not all the time, right? You and we've been together for a long time now. Seems like forever. And we really have never had a huge disagreement, have we? No. So I'm just going to tell you right now, because of the way this conversation is going right now, okay? Just stop.
Just Stop. A new song by John McKivergan. Metal Talk with Wildman and Steve.
In an instant, you hear the planes roar by, the whining of bombs raining from the sky, deafening explosions, buildings crashing down, people's cries and the screams all around. Yes, stop. Finding our next to me is always in doubt. My children's frail bodies show they do without. How warm is you? Starvation in their plans shows how war brings out the worst in man. Is anybody out there? Does anybody care? Our country's being devastated by land and air. The bombs and the shells never go away. The death they cause is the ultimate price we pay. Just to all who destroy our people, our home, don't have hearts. You're made of stone. You spread suffering, hate, and fear. God sees all your inhumanity here.
Once again through another episode.
We made it. I don't know if the listeners did, but we did.
I've been thinking about that. The listeners, they may already be drifting off into sleep, dreamland. They have their earbuds in. Maybe they're on the airplane.
Could be.
But you know what they say, you do have the cognitive ability while you sleep. And so we can speak into their minds right now. We can, Steve, we have the ability right now, Steve, we can orchestrate their dreams.
It's kind of like that movie Inception. We can go into their dreams.
Yeah. But you know what?
Yes.
We don't have to go in. We're already there.
We're already there.
Yeah. We're already there. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, and so right now, I'm telling you, listener, right now, don't jump. Maybe that woke him up. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what it is. You've had vivid dreams before, right?
Oh, yes. Truthfully, I've dreamed about Stryper. I'm not making this up. I've dreamed about Stryper.
Our listeners are not one bit surprised right now, but go ahead.
No. I in fact, I can even remember this. This is like a year or two ago. But in my dream, I was like at this, I don't know, it was like Best Buy kind of a store, big box store kind of place. And as I recall, there was Stryper merchandise up on the top shelf. And I feel like if in my memory is like action figures of the guys. It was like a Michael Sweet action figure and Oz Fox and Robert and Perry and stuff like that. And I was so excited because the merchandise was there. And if I'm not mistaken, the guys might have even been there actually in the dream as well. So,
wow. Well, did you get autographs?
The thing is, I woke up and I looked around my house and I couldn't find any of the action figures anywhere. So either my wife hid them or it really was just a dream.
I was going to say, are you still looking for them?
Yeah.
There's still that part of us, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, we're just two fanboys who just love doing this. So there's still that part of us just when we get a call from an artist or an email to schedule them for a show, I mean, we sound professional and we sound, oh yes, we'll take care of it. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, we'll do this. But on the inside, we got that heart thumping thing, like when we're backstage or at a concert when we were in high school. Yeah.
Well, and you know what, honestly, and that's why I love doing it, because we've been blessed to be able to ask the artists questions that at least I think people like us might want to ask if they could. And so I think that's why I try to approach our interviews is, what would the fans want to ask if they could actually sit down with
right.
so-and-so.
Yeah. I did think that the last one, when you asked about the gray hair, I thought that was a little bit too far, but, like, why do you have gray hair? Isn't there a way you can keep that from happening? Oh, wait, you were asking me that.
I was interviewing you, so,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching my video, that's why we have these hats, Wait, edit that out, Jay. Edit that out. That's not why we have the hats. Thank you for listening, everybody. The Wild Man and Steve Show is part of New Release Today. Check them out at newreleasetoday.com.
And as always, you can find out more about us at wildmanandsteve.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Wildman and Steve.